Instead of my introducing all the panelists, what I'm going to do is let you know who our moderator is for what we're calling sports presidency. You know, I sort of joked before we went to lunch that, you know, you're the GM of your fantasy team, so you think you know what it's like. There are, in working in this industry, so many things beyond just the personnel on the field. It should be two separate jobs, and in some ways it is. The personnel, the team, and everything else that surrounds it. I think it takes an incredible amount of knowledge and compassion and communication ability, and then the ability to separate all of that and make it business and not personal. So we're very lucky to have this great panel to talk about sports presidency, and here to moderate for us, to my left, is Terry Lefton, who has been the editor-at-large for the Sports Business Journal since 2001. Previously, the leading reporter at Brand Week, as well as one of the founding editors, where he built his reputation as a leading reporter in sports and marketing. So basically, he's going to grill these guys until you have the knowledge that you want. It's kind of a bad joke. He's not really going to grill them. So before we get to them, we want the Yaffe Center has a little presentation here for you just to tell you about their conference, which is also coming up.
Thanks, Dana. I felt like I was on first take when you took a break for a commercial. This is a three-minute commercial for the Yaffe Center and our upcoming social media conference. I'm Tim O'Day, a professor here at the Business School, and also a co-director of the Yaffe Center with Professor Rajiv Batra, who some of you may have heard of or know. The Yaffe Center is responsible for bringing on programs, courses, speakers on persuasive communication. And we've done a lot in the last few years with the digital media space. And we have a social media conference coming up in a month from now in this very same building, same room. Normally we would just publicize it in the Monroe Street Journal and we get a typical response. But we thought this year we'll do something different because of the tremendous response that all of the guests here get. I'm going to take advantage of that for 2 minutes and tell you what's coming up on November 15th. We are going to talk about social media, and the theme of the conference is what works, what doesn't, and what have we learned. So it goes beyond just the fact that everybody's got a Facebook page and everybody's got a Twitter stream and everybody's on LinkedIn and so forth, but what is actually working. And we have been able to get folks from Google, Chrysler, Facebook, Pepsi. This morning I found out Procter & Gamble is going to be here as well, and take sort of a review of where we stand beyond just the headlines and beyond the fact that everybody is on social media, to try to figure out from a marketing standpoint what's working and what's not. In talking about this, we prepared a couple of very quick posters and so forth, but we were thinking about this and the information about social media for students looking for jobs can be considered a competitive advantage versus every other student from every other university who doesn't have the benefit of this kind of information. And we thought maybe it's even a bit of an unfair advantage, because when you consider what a modest investment in time this is to see a conference like this, as well as the cost, which is virtually nothing for students. I go to conferences all the time. They're typically $1,000 a day. So once you're no longer a student, you're going to have to pay for the kind of information you'll get on November 15th. We thought maybe you could consider this a bit of an unfair advantage in your job search. So we prepared a couple of ads. We call it an informative conference on social media. Your competition for that job opportunity might call it an unfair advantage. Attend the social media conference on Friday, November 15th. Think of the social media conference as getting a 10-point advantage over your opponents. We know this is a sports-crazed crowd, and I'm a sports-crazed crowd as well. I notice we have someone from the Cavaliers here. I tell you, I was there December 27th, 1964. You know what that was, right? The last time a Cleveland sports team won a championship. I was there. I remember. So, bless you. A 10-point advantage. Attending the conference could tilt the whole playing field to your advantage. Want a backstage pass to landing a job in sports? One of the things I should say is that social media and digital media generally is an area where you guys, and I'm speaking to everybody sort of under the age of 25 here, has a huge advantage over people like me. I mean, I grew up in marketing, worked for Leo Burnett for 25 years, but we had no social media back there. So my knowledge of it was basically through my kids. Your knowledge is firsthand, and you go to a job and you know about social media, you know the ins and outs, how it works, the strengths and weaknesses, what's new, which these folks will tell you, what's working and what isn't, which hopefully they'll tell you. You have an advantage. If attending the social media conference was a sport, you'd be charged with a foot fault. That's how you do it. That's how you sign up for it. YaffeCenter.org. Space is limited. Friday, November 15th, this room, and should be very interesting. Thank you for the time. And now back to our program.
Well, thanks so much. Again, I'm Terry Lefton from Sports Business Journal and Sports Business Daily, and I don't get a dime off this, but since the big question today is, how do I get my first job? Let me suggest that you subscribe to either one of my publications. We have student rates, and if you don't read it, you're silly. Since it's after lunch, I always do this at my own conferences. Turn your phones on silent, or we're going to set our phones on stun. Okay. When we get to the Q&A portion, I have had 4 eye surgeries. Be demonstrative. I won't see you otherwise. Terrific panel to my left. Tom Garfinkel, President CEO of the Miami Dolphins, who pulled a pretty neat switch with the San Diego Padres to take his current position recently. Len Komoroski, CEO of the Cleveland Cavaliers and Quicken Loans Arena. Tom Lewand, President of the Detroit Lions. Dennis Mannion, President and CEO of the Detroit Pistons and Palace Sports and Entertainment. I believe this is the first panel today where the non-Michigan alums outnumber the Michigan alums. I don't know what that means, but I just thought I'd make note of that. Gentlemen, sports are really sexy. They're glossy. People love them. We've talked about the passion, how it can be used to tie a brand to. They are nonetheless an incredibly mature business. Where do any of you see growth coming in the near future? I've written 15 times that rights fees can't get any higher, then they get higher. I've written 20 times the NFL can't get any more bigger or more pervasive. It gets bigger and more pervasive. Start with Dennis. Come on down. Tell me where you see the growth in this business.
Sure. It's a great question. You know, I got into sports 32 years ago because the social impact of sports was immense and the economic impact of sports was not so much. And 32 years later, the social impact is still massive and the economic is still pretty minimal compared to other industries. So that gap at the floor with the economic impact and at the ceiling with the social impact is filled by content and ideas. So starting with free agency, I think that encouraged teams to think of new ways to create new products and make more money. They all did it within the same linear revenue streams: premium ticket sales, rights fees, food and beverage, so on and so forth. But now, because of technology, my answer to that question is lifestyle marketing is going to become the biggest thing for sports. I think there'll be a whole load of experiential content being delivered to fans outside of just the games. You know, camps, clinics, competitions, who cares? Cooking classes, it doesn't matter. But you'll get hubbed in a tighter demographic, maybe buy a skinny down ticket plan for sports that have a high density of games, and you'll get different types of things from different teams. So that's my answer to that, is technology is accelerating our ability to bring really media, memories, and merchandising into one package.
Technology's impact can't be underestimated on society or overall. Tom, I imagine your owner's asking you this question every once in a while.
Every once in a while, and I think Dennis is on clearly the right track. I mean, there are very few industries where, in our case, 65,000 of our best customers are coming through the door on Sunday afternoons, and we have the ability now through technology to capture data on each and every one of them. We've all known our season ticket bases for a long time, but we haven't known every one of the people who uses those tickets, or how they get used on the secondary market, and what those people look like, what they want, what their particular, as Dennis said, demographic bent is, and we now can do that. We are now getting more sophisticated as an industry in being able to not only capture that data, but put it to good use, not just to market ticket sales or the linear revenue streams that Dennis mentioned, but much more broadly, how do we capture that 12-month year-round experience 24/7? I think the challenge for us as an industry is to really tap into our fans' emotional capital. That is what differentiates us. People talk about the fan experience and what's the difference between the emerging at-home experience and the benefits there compared to the live sports experience, and I think that's emotional capital. You have so much emotional capital to invest. You want to invest it with 4,999 of your closest friends in an environment that you can't replicate at home. There are certain emotional components that you can't replicate at home. It's up to us to use that data and use technology to tap into that emotional investment the rest of the year. And then finally, I think, as Terry asked the question about rights fees going up and up, you still have the advantage in live sports. And we have, I think, a particular advantage in the NFL with the number of games that we have, that as we see the changing media landscape, live sports is continuing to hold primacy and maybe gain primacy in its position as the premier broadcast asset for any avenue, whether that's one of the major networks or whether it's one of the emerging content providers.
Absolutely. Well, I think Tom and Dennis did a great job of covering a lot of territory there. But to build off of that point, as Tom and Terry mentioned, relative to rights fees, as you mentioned, sports is the ultimate reality programming, right? We try to create all this different content to that realm, and here you have sports, which is I don't know if we'll ever see the day where we can say that rights fees have matured or from a delivery of content end, because it is so compelling from that end. And the other aspect of this, though, that's very interesting that we're seeing play out, and certainly looking from our league with the NBA, fortunate when you have basketball being played on a global basis, we're seeing continued growth and development from an international space. So as you look at the launch of NBA India, and a massive country as that is, and NBA China has been a tremendous success story, and the penetration there has been stunning. We were fortunate enough to play in NBA Finals in 2007, and for the finals games, on average, 300 million Chinese watched each NBA Finals game. So think about that. That's the amount of people we have in the United States, and gives you a sense of the interest and development from an overall basis. But if you also look at how the English Premier League, and it's been fun to watch how they've continued to monetize their content, and we've seen a growth and escalation in rights fees globally, including in the United States now, where it's become more of a primary usage of delivery of content as well. So I think all these storylines will continue to play out and create even a larger global landscape for us to be able to work and build our brand platforms and also monetize them.
One of the stats the NBA loves to throw out at me in regards to what you just said is that there are more people registered playing basketball in China than there are people in the U.S. So that gives you some cause to ponder how much international growth there is. Tom?
Well, the benefit of going last is everybody's already answered the question. Next. But yeah, I'll just add a little bit to it. I do agree that I think sports are emotional, not rational for people. I think there's brands that spend millions of dollars trying to create an emotional connection with their consumers, and we have that inherently. And so to tap into that, to use the brand as a platform for revenue opportunities and growth, I think is important. And then I think taking the fundamental businesses that we have that are in place, the revenue streams that we have, and enhancing on them. It used to be you'd go to a stadium environment and you sit on a hard seat and eat a stale hot dog, and it was just a very elementary sort of pedestrian experience. And as we continue to fine-tune that, stadiums have been built in a pretty homogeneous way, right? There's the seating bowl product, there's a suite product, and there's a premium seating product maybe. I think there's opportunities for new seating products. There's opportunities for growth in the concessions business, opportunities for growth in football, for example, in the parking lots to create festivals and premium tailgating experiences in the parking lots So there's revenue growth there. That's not just, hey, show up at 6 in the morning, pay me $20, go get the same spot you've been in for 20 years. We should be providing ice and community grills and Omaha steaks and DirecTV if you want in the parking lot. So I think there's all kinds of opportunities to take the existing platforms and enhance them further, capitalizing on that emotion and that experience.
I think, you might think, looking at these guys, that they're in the event business, but I would argue that they're really in the media business these days. So I want to ask, starting with Dennis and then whoever wants to follow, how much of your own media are you producing? How important is that becoming to the revenue stream, and where do you keep that coming? Obviously, there'll always be some national rights, and depending on which sport you're in, there'll be more national games or fewer. But how important is your own media production and your own media becoming to the overall egg?
Well, it's pretty massive because it's the heartbeat of content. And presently, on the Pistons side of the business, we produce 24 two-minute features a week. And think of each of those features as their own little intellectual property. And they have a capacity not just to be a feature, but they have the capacity to be a promotion at retail as well. So we dedicate a lot of time bringing our basic formula is to provide an inside access type of feel for different demographics. So we use the data that Tom spoke of, and we dice that up in ways, and we put the content out to people the way they want to see it, whether it be men, women, kids, businessmen, etc. And we've got, I guess, we call them predators. They're producer and editors. There's 8 of them that are working full time. And the really explosive side of it, not to get off the sports piece of it, but on the entertainment side, I'm finding whether it's Live Nation or AEG, the bigger promoters are now just starting to tap into sound checks and behind-the-scenes looks at the artists and being able to monetize that as well. So huge amount on our end is being dedicated toward that, and it is the only way that we can apply a sponsorship model where you can actually activate at retail.
Well, Tom, either Tom, because your product is so scarce, there's 8 home games. It's even more important in the case of the NFL. So how much are you doing? How much will you be doing in terms of your own programming?
Well, Terry, I think it's a little different model for us. Not that it's any less important. In some ways, it's more important. But it's handled much more nationally than some of the other sports, obviously. Right. The model's much different. So our local media production takes on sort of a multifaceted approach, very little of which has to do with Sunday afternoons. So a lot of it's like Dennis talked about, how do we produce those things, whether it's digital content, whether it's direct-to-consumer content, to drive some additional engagement. Some of it obviously is preseason, and then obviously everybody's familiar with the sort of the weekly coaches shows and those kinds of things. But just like the stadium experience, that sort of that media, local media experience is changing and has to change. People aren't consuming the product in the same way that they used to, and I think for us it's a revenue generation potential, but more than that, it's again going back to that fan engagement and really driving the investment that they make in us on days except for Sundays in the fall.
Right, and what's the stat, like 2% of your fans get into an actual game, so you better be providing something for them, especially in the case of your property. Tom Garfinkel, maybe you could use this opportunity to talk about in context of the Twitter deal, because it might open up another box of revenue if those kind of people start paying for rights fees.
Yeah, it could. I mean, I think ultimately we're storytellers. John Skipper was here talking about that. I think the content that we create is relevant because there is that emotional connection. I do think, as you look at Twitter, is there a revenue model there? I was talking to a friend earlier today about Amazon and how they used to be a bookseller, and now they're like,
Walmart.
They're Walmart. They're the biggest distributor of everything consumer and not consumer even. So what Twitter could become, I'm not sure we fully can appreciate yet. But I do think that, again, as it relates to content and media, and we are in the media business, it's about storytelling and authentic stories, genuine stories of heroism and athleticism and human stories that resonate with people.
And from a media production end, we're really you're seeing convergence. So whether it be from TV or digitally, or what's the most convenient screen to you here. John was talking about that earlier, it's about the screen at this juncture. So I think that's a major focus from our end. While we have traditional, as we produce our own radio, we have a significant amount of production to that end, as well as from a TV or cable and otherwise, but a major focus for growth and opportunity is really from a digital perspective. So we do a lot of live streaming and virtually anything you can think of. So whether it be Media Day, and in the past where that had been an event, but for us that was a 5-hour production, and how that could be something that we could present, bring to the fans, bring players up during the over the course of the day, and have them engage directly on that end from press conferences or just other activities that take place over the course of a week with the team, and how we can provide that access and in a more produced fashion as opposed to just pointing a camera at it. And that'll be a continued opportunity for growth. When you think about the number of hours that John was talking about earlier, I think it was 8,760 or whatever that number is, and that's really where us as product and content exist and have a lot of activity going year-round, and how we can bring that and provide that access to our fans provides a great opportunity for content as well as monetization.
Tom, Lewand, you brought this up tangentially before. Let me bring it up full bore about the game experience versus the at-home experience, because even though my favorite NFL team hasn't won a championship since 1960, I go to games, but I can stay at home. The parking's good. The waitress service is pretty good. I get home at a reasonable hour. The food is reasonably priced. What do you have to do to get fans to – I don't see, except in warm weather markets, that the NFL really has an attendance problem, but it's something I know at the top they are thinking about every minute of every day. How do you keep people coming to stadiums when the at-home experience is so good?
Tom started to touch on it, and I mentioned in an earlier answer about the emotional connection. That's what you can't replicate at home. You may have great wait service at home, and probably better than I do, but
depends on the Sunday.
But what you don't have is that sense of community, that sense of place, the emotional connection. There's a reason people wanted to be downtown last night at Comerica Park. Mm-hmm. There's a reason that most of our team went down there last night. And these guys are professional athletes who generate their own stories and create their own emotional connections, and they wanted to be there. So we have to recognize what our unique assets are and take advantage of those. At the same time, I think we have to stop taking for granted the in-stadium experience, and I think we're starting to see that. We're starting to see the fact that we are a service industry. And in some ways, we have to stop taking ourselves so seriously in a lot of ways. I think we've always had a mindset, particularly in the NFL, where you're fortunate to come to our games. We've been sort of order takers over the years. We took for granted our fans being in our stadiums on Sunday afternoons. And we thought that if we had some people taking tickets and saying hello and being actually nice to people, that was somehow some groundbreaking customer service initiative. I think what we're doing at the Lions, and what I know a lot of teams around, and quite frankly we're learning from some of the other leagues, is being practical, being pragmatic, and being service-oriented. If we really are serious about an emotional connection, we have to realize that the emotion is not something we define. It's something that each one of those 65,000 people defines for himself or herself. And we have to put them in an environment where they feel comfortable and they feel like they're getting value for that emotional investment that they're making in the team. So whether that's new product, whether that's new service initiatives, whether it's new ways of looking at the entire experience, and Tom mentioned it, look at tailgating, look at everything. And we're pushing the boundaries beyond the four walls of Ford Field into the entire experience from the time somebody gets in their car in the morning until the time they get home at night. And how can we have a positive impact on that overall experience?
This is the whole hug your customer routine. So Tom, tell me about hugging what are you doing to hug your customer?
Well, I think there's a few things going on. One, that we live in sort of a binary, polarizing sort of society today. So how do you create a sense of belonging with the fan, make them a part of what you're doing with the team, make them a part of the team? Secondly, there's a commoditization of tickets, if you will, where the ticket has essentially become a commodity with the secondary market. How do you create benefits that can't be transferred on a secondary market? Mm-hmm. And third, I think, ultimately, fans, we've been treating them in sort of a homogeneous way. We treat them all the same, and the truth is they're all different. So how do you get them to self-select into different categories, what type of fan they are? and what type of benefits they want, how they want to be treated, how do you create 12-month engagement. We try to address all three of these things at the Padres through our membership program, which wasn't a name change. It was really a strategic, different way to approach season ticket holders. I do think that if you give them more benefits that aren't transferable, and if you give them a sense of belonging, and if you do these things and let them self-select into whether they're a social fan, a business fan, a family fan, et cetera, you can create a sense of community, a sense of belonging that creates more stickiness, that makes the season ticket more valuable. It's not just a seat. And ultimately, it's with the professors. I was there in 1960. If you watch the games a week or so ago, on the evening in Boston when Tom Brady brings the team back to win in the last minute, David Ortiz hits a grand slam in the 8th inning. It's just not the same thing. If you're a Boston fan, to watch that on TV is to say I was in Fenway Park when David Ortiz hit the grand slam. So there is a sense of wanting to be there, a sense of belonging, of community. And there's historic moments in sports that happen that are emotional. That there's probably some 400,000 people that were at the game when Willie Mays made the catch that Vic Wirtz hit. And there really weren't 400,000 people, but if you meet enough people that say they were there, there were. And I think that's something that's not going away.
Okay. Now we're talking about customer loyalty programs, and Dennis, I think you said you were launching one.
Yeah, we have, like Tom and Tom both landed on it. We have 14 different customer clusters served by 14 different membership groups. And while we are going to do a arena fan loyalty program, we've had existing fan loyalty programs in these other clusters. And our thought process was we want more accounts, not just to sell the building out, but we want more accounts so we can build on their lifestyles. Because I think as we said, we've moved into a slice and dice world, and I don't have any interest in having this huge season ticket base with the exact same people. I prefer to divide that up and have multiple account categories and have a lot more people that we can sell a lot more products to. Like I said earlier, very interested in selling camps, clinics, and competitions, but not just for basketball. Maybe it's for dance, maybe it's for cheer, maybe it's for acro, maybe it's for tennis. But to me, we're on the cusp, I think, in sports of extending our brands way, way beyond game day. There's so much dependency from a revenue standpoint on two sources, broadcast revenue and game day at large revenue. And I think there are billions of dollars on the experiential and media side outside of the actual venue. It doesn't mean I don't want people to come to the venue. It just means we can sample more people. We can get them to do more things outside of the game day as well.
In touching on that loyalty point, and Tom referenced it relative to membership, we've launched the Wine and Gold United membership program with our season ticket holders, formerly season ticket holders, to that end, but they provide a more global engagement, 12-month platform of engagement, and have learned a lot from our friends from the English Premier League, and if you look at some of the properties over there, where it's really cradle to grave in terms of the engagement that they have, and provide that connectivity as being part of something much bigger than just about going to games. And as opposed to just traditional benefits, how do you provide these levels of access and engagement and programs on a year-round basis, and actually include them in? We had our first Wine and Gold United membership meeting, an annual meeting, which was phenomenal, and provided them with, we had our ownership, our basketball leadership, myself, and just an open forum, any questions, and we also provided them the opportunities to vote on a number of different aspects of the experience and what they would like to see, everything from concession item types to different entertainment considerations we had, and we're looking to expand it even further, even in terms of how they'd like to interact with our players to that end. So it's really fun times as far as that goes, but it also will provide a much broader platform for us as we try to deepen that connectivity and the fan avidity over a 12-month basis.
And I think Len and Dennis both touched on the value that it brings to our franchises when we do that, and the engagement that we have on a direct B2C basis with our fans. But the next logical step is, the names like the brands that you see on the banners over there. How do our corporate partners engage with those same folks. And that's what they're looking for. They want activation. The days of sort of spots and dots are over. They want meaningful engagement with our customers, with our clients. They want to leverage that that emotional connection that we have that Tom mentioned earlier is so hard to replicate in a lot of those brand businesses. We can provide that. So the better job we do of cultivating our fan base, our customer base, the greater asset we have then to leverage when we go out and do partnerships. And hopefully not only is that a way to monetize that, but it's a way to bring value back to our fans. It's a way to truly create partnerships in a robust fashion.
Dennis, I think we've been talking about tangential issue, but we've been talking about paperless tickets since there was paper. Are we any closer? I mean, I don't know. I know the technology's there, and it should fit seamlessly into some of the stuff we're talking about. It's some kind of CRM, some kind of frequency loyalty, but I don't know that many teams that have actually gone there yet. Certainly a lot of them have devices through which you can transfer tickets electronically, but I don't know that many that give you the option to have a paperless ticket yet, and I'm wondering why not.
Lenny, what's the exact number now in the NBA of teams that are paperless? Is it in the 8, 9?
That's why I think it's less than 10.
Yeah, it is. It's less than 10.
It's coming, amazingly fast. We just did a new, we didn't do a Veritex deal, but
not until not yet.
Company. We did do a new
working on that
deal, and paperless is here. And we'll some teams took the jump, like I think Len, you guys just took the jump and made it happen. They're entirely paperless, and other teams have platformed it in. That's probably how we'll do it. But you're doing it with airlines. Right. Regularly now. Customers are used to this sort of thing. It's not that hard. The best part is, as you all know probably, is that when you transfer your tickets to friends and family, whoever, business associates, the team gets all the data. And we keep bringing that same word up over and over again. But, even with the secondary market products now, they're all contained potentially within the team's ticketing system, so you don't have to go outside to a StubHub or some other broker website. So it's really cool. And at first, I'm a traditional guy. I wasn't into it, 10 years ago because I thought people loved that hard ticket. But the more you get a sense and a rhythm of the people that come, they'd rather have the convenience of having it electronically. Yeah, this guy's, by the way, I shouldn't be answering the question because he wrote the book on paperless.
I was setting it up for him to get on the soapbox, so please do.
And I'll tell you for sure he has a lot of stock because he spends his whole day trying to sell us. Just constant.
Okay, for the next 30 minutes.
I hope you left your PowerPoint at home, though.
No, but when you think about it from an industry, we're just so far behind where I look at my daughter at school, and you're here too. How many times do you pull out paper or whatever? You just swipe your card for every aspect of what you do. And when you think of it from that end, that perspective, we are just trailing the rest of the world and what's happening. And it's been as you look at it from Veritix, and that's what we use, and Tom's part of the family.
I didn't get stock, though.
I heard you got a free suit.
Yeah. But all that's needed is your unique form of identification. You don't have to have a loyalty card. You don't have to have any other component, but just your anything with a mag stripe, or ultimately could be retinal scans. But as we go down the road, and the experience we find is 98% approval rating because it's very easy. I don't have to remember anything, so we have no breakage as far as lost tickets or fraud. Or bringing the wrong date or game tickets to that. And we also get incredible streams of data. So the full experience is integrated. So not only and you're having a blurring in the industry right now. Primary and secondary are coming together. And we also recognize all the benefit as it relates to the secondary market. So any transaction that takes place in a secondary market, and we've had tickets transact 4 times in the same day. So we participate in that revenue stream each time, plus we get the data. Plus we get the data of people who even browse. If I want to set up an account and just see what's out there, we get that data as well. And now we're in a position of developing a 360-degree profile because with the Veritix platform is really more of a business platform than a ticketing platform. Food and beverage, merchandising, parking, a number of things, and we now have a profile as it extends to Cavs games, any event that takes place in our purview, and we know if they're coming into the gate 10 minutes before the game, and we can send them an offer for pregame food and beverage so that we can change their behavior and affect that outcome. We know at the merchandising store they bought Kyrie jersey, Irving, and we can now market to them in a way just like Amazon does, where they know what your tendencies are, and so it's a new day coming, a new age, and again, we're learning off what others have done in the industry.
Right. And it presages an era where, and Amazon does a little bit of this already, where they have enough data on you that when you go to a page, they will adjust the price according to what they know about you, which is probably every merchant's dream. How elastic is the price? Well, we know because we know enough data about you. Tom Garfinkel, this would seem to make a lot more sense for a property that has 10 home games than one that has 45 or 50. So how widespread is it in the NFL? I'm not as familiar with that one.
Well, I think that I remember having this conversation back in 2007 about the digital ticket, and there was a team that launched it at the time, and I remember thinking to myself, it's too early. It's not relevant. I think they had 36 people go through and beat their ticket, and it was a cool press release. I remember at the time thinking, though, but it's driving me crazy that we don't have graphical user interface for seat selection yet, and that took years until people came along and devised it and created more competition. But I think that the technology has to be relevant. And if it's too early adopter, it's probably not relevant. If it can be usurped easily by something that's coming next, it's not going to be relevant. So just getting the next shiny new object technology and jamming it in there isn't always the best idea, in my opinion. Obviously, I think now it is relevant. I think digital ticketing is obviously very relevant for all the reasons that these guys described. I do think that I'm a believer, though, of not forcing behaviors on your customers. I think you give them the options and you incent them to the behavior you want. There is still a segment of fan bases in most markets that are not comfortable with technology. They want their paper tickets. So for me, I kind of look at it more as let's get to digital ticketing. Let's collect the data. Let's incent them to use the digital ticketing. It's easier for us. It's better for us. We collect more data. It's easier for the fan once they learn how to use it if we can make it easy for them. But there's still going to be, if we go exclusively to that, we're going to take a segment of our fan base and say, you have to do it this way, and really make them upset. And I think the consumer's in control and try to guide them to where some people are going to transition into it sooner than others.
All right. So when will you offer said product?
Well, we'll have it soon. I've been there a month. Yeah.
I can do.
I was going to say, Tom.
We're the only NFL team, thanks to Len, that is not using Ticketmaster right now. And we launched Veritex this season. A little bit longer lead time in launching that would have been preferable, but more than 7 days before our first game. But that's a whole other story. We now have it. We are, like Dennis said with his potential strategy, we are layering it in. We're doing some beta testing, giving people the option to go paperless right now. And we're another test for us is coming next week. We're going to go on sale Monday with some standing room only tickets for our game against the Cowboys. Those are all going to be paperless. And we are seeing a lot of great data capture. We are seeing that it happens. I tend to think that Tom's right, that the optional model, like the airlines use and like a lot of others use, is the way to go, at least initially. But the experience has been nothing short of fascinating as we've gone through it this year. And for us, it is a fundamental difference. And this is not a Veritex commercial, although you can use it as one as you see fit. But Ticketmaster is a ticketing company, and they've been around forever producing tickets. And they happen to collect a lot of data. People like Veritex and more of the new competitors in the marketplace are data-driven solutions that happen to use tickets as a medium to get there. And that's what we're becoming as an industry. We are a data-driven industry, creating that emotional connection with our fans, and tickets are just one element of that and need to be recognized as such.
This test of yours, are you incenting fans that opt to take those tickets?
Yes. We're both incentivizing, and we do have a mandatory component. All of our staff who have tickets have to use it, and we get obviously direct feedback from them. We're incentivizing a lot of suite holders, and we've had a great conversion rate there. And then we're seeing the additional incentives that will build onto that as we go into renewals and some of the other things.
Okay. We had skipped over a little bit on the connectivity issue, so I wanted to get back there, since especially if you run a big stadium, you probably have a problem with bandwidth. I know here they have a problem with bandwidth when they're playing home games. Most NFL stadiums, although they're getting better, have a problem with bandwidth. Everyone watches the game at home with probably 2 screens. My son watches with 3 screens, counting the TV. So how big an issue is it? Where are you on this? To start with Dennis, it's a little easier indoors, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, it's a necessity. It's not a luxury anymore.
It's like bathrooms now, right?
Yeah, you can't. You have to put yourself in a position to have clean railroad tracks for all of your providers to serve your customers. And, put this all together, guys. Like, you put paperless ticketing together with content and media and whatnot. You've got to have clean tracks inside that building so you can change your concession prices and merchandise prices on the fly, so you can turn all that content into sponsor-generated content, right? You can beacon signs and have people walk by and get hit with trivia questions that activate at McDonald's, whatever it might be. But you're crazy if you don't get that infrastructure worked out. In the early going of all this, a lot of the facilities have been able to broker deals with carriers to put that infrastructure in for them, and then they rent those tracks out to get their money back with the other folks. But if you don't do it, you're out of your mind, because we're all talking customer service. You've got to get to this new level where you've got basic stuff like instant replays, but maybe you're also giving different demos, different looks of practice, things of that nature, and then driving them back for that particular player's jersey at 1 quarter break for for a discount. So it's the coolest thing that's happening, and I kind of would never get it on with Mark Cuban, but I kind of disagree with his theory on not having your handheld device because you can't clap. Just do a clap app, and you can clap just fine. In the meantime, not just my kids, but myself, look at everybody. We're all living on this. Watch any game on TV. Someone called it the HD generation for heads down. And I think if you don't have it, you're out of luck.
No, even when you're there. I mean, I was at a game 2 weeks ago, NFL game, and they're spending as much time here as they are here. It's remarkable. Tom Lewand, how's your connectivity in your stadium, and what are you doing about it? It's got to be a different economic model than most stadium operators are used to, because they're used to other people paying for those kind of things.
Well, it's not really an economic model. I think that Dennis said it. It's a necessity. I mean, you certainly want to look at everything as an economic model, right, but it's infrastructure now. It's no different than concrete and steel when you're building a stadium. If you don't have that infrastructure, your building will collapse, just like if you don't have the concrete and steel. I mean, that's what it is, and it's a large cost. It's a large continuing cost and a large life cycle cost. We can't effectively estimate what that cost is going to be to continue to use Dennis's term, the railroad tracks. And those are going to get wider and wider and deeper, and we've got to continue to keep up with it if we're going to do not only the data capture that we've just been talking about when it comes to the fans and all the trigger points that Dennis mentioned, but the other use of this technology and the other need for this bandwidth. You talk about the in-stadium experience that we mentioned a little while ago. What can we do in the stadium to differentiate the at-home experience in addition to the emotional connection? This year at Ford Field, in the shoulder pads of every one of our players is an RFID chip, or 2 of them actually. And we're beta testing a product where we're capturing, Miami did it last year, we're capturing data, literally it's dozens of data points per second on every player. So eventually you're going to be able to get into our stadium and be able to see things about how fast a guy ran a route, how quickly he came out of a break, what his heart rate was. Anything that we decide or that you help us decide is relevant to your consumption of our game, we'll be able to give you, but we need bandwidth to be able to do that. So there's the consumer side, the business side, and as well as the game experience side.
What's the state of the art now at your games? Will I be happy with the bandwidth I get? Can I
Your
stream
Verizon
video?
customer will be really happy.
Well, that's one of the problems, yeah. But
it is. You will be. We haven't hit the sweet spot, and it's still a work in progress. I think it is across and people are looking at multiple layers of whether it's distributed antennas, whether the DAS system, whether it's Wi-Fi, and it is a mix. And we broadcast throughout our bowl. We broadcast outside the stadium right now, and we have had very good results through our preseason and our first 2 home games. But it's not been without hiccups.
And the only thing I would add is this topic I believe will have a very, very short shelf life because it's just a matter of needing to get done. So if your facility hasn't made the investment, hasn't gone forward and made this happen, it will get done in the near term because the fan demand is so strong, coupled with the fact that it's not only a venue issue, but it's also dealing with the Verizons and AT&Ts. That's a huge issue because who do you think also gets complained to when they can't get access? It's universal expression of disappointment. So there's a great resolve on a global end to get this addressed, and you're seeing that happen rapidly. And if teams haven't already done that, they're in process of figuring out how to get it done. So I would say this has a very short shelf life.
I hope you're right. What's the state of the art in Miami?
Yeah, we actually announced today that we've got over 1,100 access points, Wi-Fi access points, new DAS system that's actually launching this weekend, this Sunday. And it is partially content. It is partially just operational. As membership gets built out, what Len was describing with Veritix, I think it's going to just become part of your operation like electricity. Your concessions operations, your ticketing operations. If you don't have Wi-Fi and you can't use your phone, it's not just going to be about content. But I also think that on the content side, we live in a society today, again, where there was a comedian a couple of years ago was talking about how he was flying on a plane for the first time, and he had Wi-Fi access to his computer on the plane. And he says, I didn't even know this existed. This is amazing. I'm sitting in a chair, and he tells this whole story about the stagecoach and what people used to have to go through to get across the country. So I'm sitting in a chair at 30,000 feet, and now I'm on my computer. This is incredible. I can't believe it. And an hour into the flight, the stewardess comes on, or the flight attendant, and says, I'm sorry, the Wi-Fi is down. We won't be able to provide that service for the rest of the flight. And the guy sitting next to him says, you got to be kidding me, because he's doing his email. He said, you're really upset that a technology that you didn't know existed an hour ago, like you're being denied access to now. And that's sort of where it's come to, right? People expect it. And I think, and they're upset when they don't have it. So it is we're 3 or 4 years ago, it was sort of, do we invest in this? What's the revenue model? Today, it's a necessity.
It is. I'm about 3 minutes from going to the audience for questions. Before I get there, the one question all of you want the answers to, and we have a partial answer to, is how do I get a job? Dennis, do you have anything to add to what everyone else offered today? This is the biggest relationship business in America. They all are. Beyond, we know that. Work your contacts. So beyond that,
Yeah, I think all of us on this panel are probably biased toward entry on the ticket sales front because it's the product, and it's not about selling. It's about learning the product from the inside out, and you learn from all the customers. So everything from the way the place is mapped to all those additional services that you give, you learn that way. And a lot of folks will turn their nose up to starting out in a ticket sales area, but you're not going to be a good marketeer unless you sell tickets. You can't. You won't process it. You won't feel it from the fans. It just doesn't work. So I got lucky in 1981. I got hired by the Phillies, and I went in kicking and screaming because there were 2 jobs, one in PR and one in ticket sales. A guy named Dave Montgomery, who's the president, general managing partner there now, put me in the ticket sales department. I was very bummed out, and today I'm very happy. So that's my answer, is that's the best way in. And all these teams have inside sales centers. It's a good place to start even when you're in school.
there are many more sales jobs than there are marketing jobs. That's the only thing you pick up today that'll be valuable. Tom, what do you think?
I would say don't limit yourself. Don't just look at clubs or leagues. Look at the broader picture, whether that broader picture is a brand partner of the NFL, a service partner of the NFL or Major League Baseball or one of the leagues. Those are also additional access points, and it geometrically increases your options. The other thing I would say is look to specific skill sets. I was here at Ross with Paul Tagliabue right after he retired as commissioner of the NFL, brought him up to have lunch with some business students, and he was asked the same question, and his answer is stuck with me, which was just go be successful in whatever it is that you choose to do. Because I will hire successful people who have a proven track record of succeeding at where they were. And I can speak from my own experience in applying that lesson. We're building our marketing arm and our sales arm, but more our marketing arm. And I personally don't think we as an industry, and particularly we in the NFL, have done a great job marketing our product. And I went outside of sports to hire people who were proven marketers. Our VP of marketing is from ePrize. She didn't work in sports. Our senior VP of marketing and partnerships was with Edelman PR and marketing firm in Chicago for a decade, and then oversaw the Pure Michigan campaign here locally. So excel at whatever it is your path is in front of you, and look specifically to those skills that you see are needed in sports that maybe aren't excelling in sports.
I think that at times you'll look at, well, I want to start right at the top with an NFL team or whatever type of major league property, and from a personal end, I had a chance to intern at the Pirates as well as a team called the Pittsburgh Spirit, which was indoor soccer, which most people know if a soccer ball back in Pittsburgh at that point it was blown up or stuffed or whatever it was. And I can tell you, I got so much more out of the Spirit experience because, one, we had to do everything else that everybody else had to do in terms of all the functionality we had to do here. And we had a relatively small staff. So I was put into a setting where I was doing, in a lot of cases, items that I had no business doing as an intern. But the more you put yourself into it, the more and I had a tremendous amount of exposure to different sectors of the business. So I may have thought going in I wanted to get into this one space, but I was doing bits and pieces of others, and it gave me a much better understanding of how the whole operation works. And we, even organizationally from our end, we have a number of people who come from the minor league space who have brought that grit, determination, and creativity, because you don't have the inertia behind you, or maybe the whether it be media coverage or other things of that nature that help propel you forward in this business at times, and you have to make that energy happen on your own. So I would just say don't look past those opportunities. They're prevalent out there. There's about 160 affiliated minor league baseball teams and all kinds of other minor league teams out there. Phenomenal learning platform, and you'll really find out, is this something you really want to do? And you also find out a lot more quickly as to, I really like a lot this direction maybe versus another direction.
Yeah, I think my career advice, if you will, is a little more generic from the standpoint it applies to any industry and applies to any stage of your career. I think that what I see often from people is they make the mistake of thinking that career progression in general is linear, meaning I have to get the next title, the next amount of money, the next, and it's not. For me, I've never taken a job in my career because of title, geography, or money, including this one. It was always where's the best opportunity to learn, and where's the best opportunity to produce results. And within those two things, you have to have a great team of people around you. You have to have autonomy and resources and great people to learn from that believe in you. And those types of things have kind of guided my career anyway. And I think that if you're in an environment where you're learning and you're producing results, opportunities are going to present themselves. And when they do, you're going to be ready for them.
Okay, anything from the audience yet? Right here? Here?
For the Cavaliers, there was a period of 7 years where the face of your franchise was also the face of the NBA, and then it was gone like that. The process, the transition process, both externally with the fans and internally.
Can I just say, that's a nice-looking shirt, by the way. Go Dolphins.
Oh boy! Well, I haven't heard this question for a while. It's we did have a transition, and starting right from the top. Dan Gilbert, our owner, you won't find a more passionate owner in sports, and a more committed owner to a city in terms of Cleveland. Dan, certainly I think represented from a very high level about his commitment to achieve the ultimate success with our organization, and that's been made evident on a daily basis, and whether it be with our general manager Chris Grant or with the investment in the team, and building the team the right way, and being very connected to our fans and articulating what we're doing and how we're going to go about the process, and then honoring those commitments. And we've been fortunate in that that our fan base, Dan has a lot of credibility based on investing in Cleveland as a whole and doing things the right way. And then ultimately, when the team was in a position to achieve at the highest levels, Dan would do whatever it takes. He would invest. He would go deep into the tax, whatever, to deliver on that. And when we had to take a step back and rebuild, it was a matter of being very open and visible with how we're going to go about that process, and then we're starting to see the benefits of that happening. So it's not anytime you have a significant impact on your franchise of any nature, the key thing is being out there, being visible, and also communicating what you're going to do, and then regularly being back to the fans about how that's progressing, and then ultimately the proof is going to be in the results.
Okay. Anyone else? I see one up there.
That's the best thing about being in team sports is there's so many models to look at that you can apply to management. And for me, consistency and clarity is the main thing I look for in the different jobs that you take a look at. In our case, I got tired over the years of hearing the word character and it not being defined. So we're very specific about 7 traits we believe in that constitute individual behavior and character. And we relay that to a concept called RISE, which is the organization's promise to its employees is to help them realize, improve, share, and expand their talents. And then on another level, you want to look at how they relate as teammates. And what's the cycle? What are the rules of the game? Do they initiate, collaborate, and account as one unit? Are they authentic but respectful? Are they resourceful but disciplined? Do they have a villain or no villain or a type of culture? Those are things that are huge. For us, we org out by personality type. I said get into ticket sales, but ultimately I'd put a CFO type through ticket sales first, then move them. So we're divided into thinkers and creatives, operators, and relators, our revenue people. And so you want to look at a culture where you can fit in, which the guy said earlier. So that's a huge part of how we're structured. And you want to see if they do have a tight mission and a top-line strategy that fits, because it's just stupid to go to work for someone that has no vision and strategy. So vision and strategy, a good working order that fits that vision and strategy is important to scout for. And then you want to see if they do have an ideology, more than just some dumb, catchword phrase of we're a Raven or we're a Dodger. It's got to go a little further than that. So we go to great lengths to have 2 sides of the report card. One is based on metrics, but the other is based on culture. So it's pretty key. In terms of relating yourself, I'll take a page out of what the guys here said. Be yourself. It's just be relaxed. Tell people who you are, what you like to do, what you've accomplished. I think that just translates the best way when you're real. Just be real. And if you're in this school, I can guarantee any team here would hire you. That's the bottom line. But you got to be relaxed and be yourself. And that's as far as I can go, because I don't have any kids at home anymore, so I just felt like saying all that. So that's
Help me out here, guys.
I am right there.
Where? Go ahead.
Yes. All right. I guess I have a question. I know Michigan football introduced dynamic pricing with their home game season tickets for single games. What do you guys think about that as an opinion, and is that kind of the future in kind of ticket sales?
I would say, well, great question. Again, another area where we've lagged behind other industries. So think, how many of you have flown on a plane? Pretty much everybody? And does that ticket stay static? Do you know that, are you conditioned now to a point where you say, oh boy, if I buy this ticket well in advance, I'm going to get a better price than if I wait to the last minute? And we are now conditioned and understand that. We hired our first analytics director years ago, but she came from the airline industry, and she yielded pricing for American Airlines, and they would change their pricing 3 times a day. With the model, the algorithms that she ran. And with that, as inventory would shrink in different areas and other other aspects there, they would ratchet up the pricing. And really, we're trying to work to provide and condition our fans too that you want to work to have them engage with your product earlier, reward those who do so, provide additional benefits for those who make a larger commitment overall, whether it be season tickets or otherwise. And from a dynamic pricing end, it really provides those levers, those tools to help create that type of behavior, as well as provide you the opportunity for additional yield as you would see in other industries.
Tom Garfinkel, how easy is it to implement something like that when you're trying to hug your customer at the same time?
Well, it is tricky, and it's not as simple as just kind of pushing a button. There's a communication strategy behind it. There's a set of connected activities. How many people have a FUA for strategy? You know, it's a set of connected activities that you do. For example, one of the things we did in San Diego was we stopped selling to brokers, and when we stopped selling to brokers, we could control scarcity, control supply in the secondary market a lot more. We didn't resell those tickets to season ticket holders. We sold them on an individual game basis. We variably priced them and then dynamically priced them as well. Then we were able to, as a result, create more stickiness for the season ticket holder because the secondary market's actually an inflated price, so they can liquidate their tickets easier. So it's all of these things together that make it work. It's not as simple as just saying, okay, we're going to do dynamic pricing now. You have to really manage it and manage the communication, manage every facet of it.